calls and they're like, I want to make $1 million in 1 year, even if they've never made a single dollar in their life before. No one tells you that you need to also balance your life to help with business. One of the biggest game changers for me was
Ro Shah is a small business owner in the United States.
Ro, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be on here.
Oh, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule because I know you are very busy. So I'm glad that I was able to pinpoint down a time to talk to you. Yeah.
I'm always glad to chat. And when I saw your podcast, I saw, you're on the other side of the world. So I was like, oh, like worlds meet. Yeah.
For sure. All right, Rose. So I'd love to start off. The first question is, how was your day yesterday?
Yes. Okay. Yesterday was my Tuesday. So it's actually one of my favorite days of the week. It's when I see all of my clients all at once over a 2 to 3 hour period, and I coach them. And that's what I do. I'm a sales coach. So all I focus on is really being able to help them with sales and lead generation. So yesterday was a heavy client day. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. So on the weekends, do you find that you're able to have a rest, or do you find that you actually have to work?
That's a really good question. I think it depends on what season I'm at in the business. So right now we're preparing for a launch, and when we're launching, it's really all hands on deck. But I think it's super important to turn my business brain off during the weekend so I can come back on Monday really hitting the ground running. It's a hard lesson I've had to learn over the years. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, lovely. All right, Roy. Now, before we go into more questions, the next thing I want to ask you is this. So I call it a backstory snapshot. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically a backstory snapshot is what I like to think of it as moments or events, either from your early years growing up or even from a few years back. Now, these moments and events are things that you believe have influenced you or shaped you to be doing what you're doing with your business today. So, what would you say are your backstory snapshots?
Can it be more than one? Or
Yes,
yeah.
definitely more than one.
It's interesting because I looked at your story as well, and I noticed the snapshots throughout the years, and it had me thinking of my own. And I saw one of your first snapshots was moving to Australia. And I think I have to start there just because I was really inspired by your snapshots on your website. I would say one of the first ones is probably my family moving to the United States. And then I would fast forward into my first corporate job in college. I realized it was not for me. I was working in luxury e-commerce, and I was a developer. So here we have Saks Fifth Avenue. It's I think they're still in business, and they were doing a lot of development at the time, and I was sitting at a desk job for 8 hours in a cubicle, and I could not wait till lunch to just leave the office. And I'm like, I cannot do this until I'm 60, which is what I saw the rest of the world doing. And I'm like, I need an exit plan. I didn't come up with an exit plan until 5 years later. That's my next snapshot. When I started my business, I had started multiple businesses between that first job to starting the business I have now. And that specific snapshot is a snapshot because I hired my first mentor. I had a lot of broken Instagram accounts, businesses that never really took off. But I think that's the biggest snapshot for my business, is actually putting my money where my mouth is and hiring someone to help me get to where I wanted to be. And without that last piece, I wouldn't even be here.
Wow, I love that because it really explains, where you sort of wanted to take your journey. So you were in the office doing the corporate business and you thought, no, I'm not really liking what this is going to turn out to be. So yeah, fantastic that you decided to put systems into place and start. So when you hired your first person to work with you, can you tell me about that? Like, how was that? How did that go about?
That's such a good question. Wow, I haven't thought of that in so long. So the first time I hired someone, I was actually fighting it. I did not want to hire anyone. I'm sure you might have experienced this as a business owner as well. Your first hire, you're questioning yourself 10 different ways. You're like, is this going to work out? Can I afford this? Blah, blah, blah. And that same mentor that I hired in that third snapshot, she essentially told me, like, you can keep doing this yourself and burn out, which I was right at the edge of being burnt out because I had so many clients at that point. Or you can hire, and that hire will really help you build your business. I didn't believe her, but in blind faith, I was like, I have the money. Let me just make this hire and see if I can have a return on investment. And that's exactly what happened. Within that month, my business, we had doubled the amount of business that we were doing just from hiring one contractor. And then fast forward that same year, I ended up hiring on 6 more contractors to help me with my business. But that first step is very scary. It's super scary and no one talks about it. I love that question. It brings me back.
Oh, yes. Well, I think the reason why I went there because I started my small business about 9 years ago, and it was sort of like one of those accidental business. It was mainly so hair and skincare is what I do. It was mainly to sort of cater for my daughter. So my kids are biracial, and so they're Ghanaian, African, English, Welsh, and so their hair absolutely different. And so I started, trying to find products and make stuff for their hair. Anyway, so long story short, during the process, like over the years, I decided that, with my teaching background, I would actually just learn everything off YouTube and just do everything myself. So I did do that. But then eventually, I think second year, third year, I'm thinking, oh, no. So I just kept going at it. And to be honest, it was only 2 years ago that I decided to hire someone just for them to bring forth, their sort of perspective on things. And I'm glad I did. So good for you for starting that sooner. Do you know what? I wish I did do that sooner, but,
I completely understand where you're coming from, because I think it's a risk, right? If it doesn't work out, you're on the line to pay and their payroll. And also you're releasing control. Like, there's only one of you and it's all up in your brain, right? The SOPs, the systems, the procedures, and now you're handing your baby to someone else, right? It can feel like such a spin out moment of like, do I really want to do this? And I agree. I feel very lucky and blessed that I did it within my first year of business. That's how I've been able to grow so fast.
Yeah, well done. So with your team, you said that you hired 6 people plus a one. So is that 7 at that time?
Yes. That year we had, I believe, it ended up going closer to 10 contractors within 12 months. But the reason that happened is I was actually running a lead generation agency, right? So for every client I had, I needed a project manager for each client. So every time I signed a new client, I was like, okay, now I have to hire someone new, right? So you could just imagine how much, how many logistics went into that, right? Every time I hired someone, I had another client, so it was more revenue, and that served me really well. But at this point, now in 2024, I only have 2 employees, contractors, because I switched from being a service provider to actually being more of a consultant coach, right? So my overhead costs have decreased because I'm not providing a service. I'm not doing it for people anymore. I'm teaching them how to do it. So like before we were fishing for people, right? We were catching fish for everyone. And now we're more on the side of like teaching people how to fish, which is why our business has changed so much in the past couple of years.
Wow, there's a lot I love to unpack there. So I'm just going to go back a little bit, and I have to
Yeah.
keep all those pointers in my head.
Yeah.
So the first one is, you said lead generation, and I know that from your Instagram that you are very specific. So your lead gen is mainly for women of color. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Can you tell me why you want it to be that sort of niche or specific?
Yeah, so even more specific, I only like with my sales and lead gen coaching, we specifically serve women of color in finance. So I actually used to work uh, on Wall Street, and I used to work all around New York City in undergrad, and I did not see a lot of women of color in those financial institutions. We had a lot of clients that were in finance, and I was just like, where are they? Where are the women that look like me? Where are the women that look like my friends? And I didn't see them. And I remember there was this one time where I was in the office. I was talking to my colleagues and some older coworkers, and we were discussing investing, right? Like investing, our 401ks, retirement, savings, brokerage accounts, all of that. And they were giving very outdated information that people from maybe 20 years ago were giving. And I was upset. I was upset, but because of my age and because of, who I was, no one took me seriously. And I was like, where are all of the women of color that are at the top of the industry that are showing up on CNBC, MSNBC, all the major networks in America that I can kind of point to and be like, I got my information from this resource who's credible. And I couldn't point to anyone. The only people I could point to were the women of color in my family who taught me all this stuff. And they're all credible. But the people I was arguing with, they had Dave Ramsey and they had all these financial gurus in America that they could point to and be like, look at this guy. He's like a multimillionaire. If he's saying it, it's right. And I was like, I couldn't find anyone to say that my information was just as credible as theirs. So that's why I started this business. I was like, there need to be more women of color that have the publicity so that, they can teach the right type of information, nuanced information that not necessarily like the white guys on Wall Street don't teach us. So that's a long story, but that's pretty much why I focus specifically on women of color.
Yeah, no, I love that. It really, like, I guess when, people of color, we sort of, we do want to have a representation, don't we? And it really does matter. So I really applaud you for, really thinking outside the box and wanting to help, people of color. So on that note, how do you go about finding clients to work with? Is it basically just through social media like Instagram, Facebook, or like how do you advertise?
Oh, I love that. I love that question. So, because it's like ironic because I ran a lead generation agency. So, my whole job for all my clients was to get them leads, right? And now, because I'm a sales and systems coach, I teach people how to get leads. So, I like to call it like a 3-step framework. So, first, you need to.
Right, now, quickly, if you are watching Small Business Owners Secrets to Success and you have not subscribed yet, please, 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 can I ask you to subscribe and share, like, and comment if you can do that, because it really, really helps me a lot and it helps spread the word of how small business owners can be supported. So be sure to do that. And thank you once again. Back to the podcast.
So, first, you need to know what your niche is. I know every business coach has said this under the sun, but the niche that you resonate with, that you have proximity to. And I can give you a good example. So, in terms of getting leads, a lot of people want to just go after the people that have money, right? And what that leads to is targeting people that you have no connection to. So, what I see, because I serve CPAs, and a lot of CPAs will just want to focus on people in healthcare, like doctors, lawyers, engineers, those types of industries, because it seems like an easy sale, right? Oh, those people make hundreds of thousands of dollars. they're going to have no problem paying me. The issue is when you approach those people and you have no history with that industry, they're going to smell the inauthenticity a mile away. That's why I always say, who have you had experience with, and focus on them. Now, in terms of where to find them, where to find your leads, I go over this concept called proactive pursuit, which means not waiting around for people to come to you, right? And I'm sure you've experienced this as well, Ruth. Like when you release like a product, right? You're kind of, you could just wait and hope that people will buy, but you have to do some marketing. So with the proactive pursuit, I teach all my clients, you don't sit on your hands just waiting for someone to approach you, or you don't post and pray. I don't believe in just posting on social media to post. I always say you need to go and reach out to them, like send them a DM, send them a voice message, talk to another human being instead of putting your content out into a black void. So I do talk about getting leads through social media, but it's not in the way you think. It's not really content heavy at all. It's really about creating more conversation one-to-one, and then taking that into like a sales call, which turns into clients. Not, I think what a lot of influencers will teach is post a lot of content and then have people to come to you. It's very different. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that you're able to explain a bit more on that, because I'm guilty of that on my hair and skincare page. I've started this year just wanting to post every day just to give out some content to people who may be new to my page, because in the past I would do like once a week, once a fortnight, once a month, on and off. But yeah, you definitely need to have a purpose and like a reason behind your posting. So that is really, that's a very, very good take. Yeah. So my next question I want to go on to, which I think should work really well. So you were talking about CPA. Just in case other people who are listening to are not familiar with your CPA, can you explain what a CPA is and, like how important that is?
Yes. So CPA in the United States stands for Certified Public Accountant. So I really work with your accountants, your bookkeepers. I also work with investment bankers and money coaches. So anyone that teaches about money, I work with them to help them create more sales and create more leads in their business. But I want to touch upon what you said, Ruth, about having like a hair business and creating intentional posts. I think it's really, really important because you can make such an impact with your product, and the content that you create can be life-changing as long as you're approaching it with that intention. So I just wanted to say that because when I see like consumer brands, like physical product, I was like, they can really change the world as long as they have a story behind it. And you have such an amazing story.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So with you mentioned the finance aspect, and I know on your Instagram profile, you mentioned that you're a finance media strategist. Can you explain a little bit more about that and your sort of strategy in how you present that to your clients and how you sort of, I don't know, coach them or guide them through that process?
Yeah. So that I focus more now on sales and systems, and it does revolve around a lot of strategy, hence the term strategist.
Yeah.
That was actually the name of my company, Finance Media Collective LLC. And now we really focus on sales and systems coaching. So financial experts will come to us. So think about the person you file your taxes with, right? They will come to us asking for a strategy on how to get more clients. And the process we basically walk them through is, one, how much in sales do you want to make this year, right? It's the beginning of the year right now as we're recording this. And I always ask, okay, let's ground our conversation and decide how much money you want to make. And sometimes people do come on these calls and they're like, I want to make $1 million in 1 year, even if they've never made a single dollar in their life before from their business. And I always use more of a grounded technique saying, okay, if you haven't made any money in your business, let's start with your first 10,000. And then usually for people that are coming to me and they're like, they've made, like, let's say $100,000 in their business already. I'm like, let's repeat that, but make it easier for you. So we really focus on collapsing timelines. Like, I can even speak for myself. I think it took about 10 months to make 6 figures. And then we focused on collapsing that, right? So our next 6 figures took about 5 months. And that's the example that I give to a lot of my clients. You can collapse timelines with the right coaching, with the right sales and the right lead gen systems. And that's really where we start the conversation in terms of media strategy for all those financial experts.
Okay. So do you find that when you have your clients, when they come to you, are they, because obviously they want to make like $1 million in a year, and you're thinking, wait a minute, let's break this down. Do you find that they're able to follow your lead and to listen and to take instructions well? And if not, how do you sort of, I know, like you said, that you try and, pace them through. Do you have any other techniques you try and use to sort of say, okay, let's break this even down further, just for those people who are not very, familiar with the whole process? Do you find that you have to really break it down almost like somebody in high school, primary school?
Yeah, of course. I think sticking with the basics is the most important. So that's why I focus on the very basics, the foundations of what you need to know. And you asked me, like, do they listen to the process? So the way the process is netted out is really making sales within your first 30 days of working with us. I know we're having our quarterly masterclass coming up, and that's going to talk about specifically the 3-step process that you need to actually make more sales within 1 month. But if they're not coachable, like, I'll go with the example you mentioned, like, if they're not getting results or if they're not seeing the goals that they want immediately, we have a process called, like I mentioned, the proactive pursuit, where it's like, where are you focusing your energy? I think a lot of times as business owners, we get lost in the busy work. Like, oh, I want to edit my website, or, oh, I want to change the color palette of my branding, or, oh, I want to, edit my captions today. And I have to really clean all that up for a lot of my clients and be like, is that going to make you money today? Like, are you going to make a sale today from editing your website? Or can you just reach out to one person in your audience directly, like send them a DM, and is that going to make you a sale? So I think that really helps ground the conversation. It's like, what's the one thing we can focus on today that's actually going to put money in your bank account, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it really does. And I'm glad that you went through that, because I'm a procrastinator sometimes, or should I say most of the times. and I have to be very, very, strict, and I put on different hats to try and guide myself through the day. And so on that note, talking about different hats and responsibilities, can you tell me some of the hats that you have to wear within your business?
Yes, I feel very fortunate at this point to have been able to outsource a lot of my work. And thinking back on what I said, I do have more than 2 contractors. I also forgot about my podcast editor and things like that. But I think I've been very fortunate to outsource a lot of my work. So hats I used to wear, like doing my own bookkeeping, I have a bookkeeper now. Doing my own podcast editing, I have handed that off. And that the only way I was able to do that is following my own processes of just focusing on the sales first, instead of trying to keep on many, many hats. I would say the hats I do wear right now, as of this year, would be the decision maker. I think that's the biggest hat I wear. I have to think about a lot of the times who I'm going to hire in the next quarter, what business decisions am I going to make, what lifestyle changes am I going to make, what kind of clients do I really want to take on, and how to say no. That's why I really say the biggest hat I wear is decision maker. But at this point in my business, I would say I have outsourced a lot of my work. But in the beginning, like within my first year of business, I was doing everything under the sun until I made my first hire. And that's what really helped me scale and take off a lot of hats and give them to other people who were better at doing it than I was. I had no business editing a podcast. So when I like handed that off, I was like, she does it way better than I do. I was happy to give that away. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, very wise. Very, very wise. Yeah. So I also wanted to go to this next thing, and I'm just looking on my notes here.
Yeah.
So the one that really struck me was I think you had a course for a lead gen lab, is that right? Which is the systems and sales. How was, like, have you already run that course, or is it still in the process?
So
Yeah.
that is our 6-month group container where you learn sales and leads within 6 months with us. That program is opening again February 19th, and we're actually having our free training on February 19th as well. So if you want to learn how to create more sales and create more leads in your business, I definitely, you could check out my page and sign up. But the Lead Gen Lab, it only opens once a quarter. And it's our signature program, from the basics of like learning how to put your service agreement contracts together for clients to actually learning how to sell on a sales call. We go over all of that in the curriculum. And it's called Lead Gen Lab because the most important piece is generating leads for your business, creating new clientele in your business. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Lovely. That's good to know. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's great for people listening now. Then they'll go straight to that and find out some more information. So good plug. Well done. Yeah. And yeah, so the other thing is the CRM, which is the customer relationship management. And can you tell me a little bit about that? Because you mentioned that, I think, in one of your Instagram reels, or I think it was I'm not sure whether that was an interview. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, so a CRM is where you pretty much hold all your client data. For people who aren't familiar with it, so think about every single person that has ever bought from you, right? Where are you holding all that information? Where are you holding their email addresses, their phone numbers, how much they bought from you, and literally, where does it live? For most people, it doesn't live anywhere. It might live on their cell phones, right? Because they called a couple of people, but they don't have that customer information somewhere in one place. For CRMs, I highly recommend Airtable. It's amazing. It's free. They have all these automations that you can do. And I think the biggest play with the CRM is that you can do a lot of follow-up. And Ruth, like, you probably also know this, right? When a customer buys, they're more likely to buy again. But it's up to you as the CEO or entrepreneur to really keep up that relationship after that they buy, right? A CRM helps you do that because it's like, okay, Ruth bought on January 1st. She bought again 2 years later. So how can I help her buy again a third time? And that CRM is going to help you identify the patterns with each customer. And I think that's really the most important piece of even having one. Every entrepreneur should have like a Rolodex of all of their clients and how much they've paid you. So you understand who's your best client, who's been the client that's paid you the most over the years, and how to repeat that business.
Yeah, fantastic. So with me, I'll just use that as an example. I have an automation that goes on that sends out reminders or emails saying, how did you go with the purchase? How did you like the products? And sort of try and get feedback. Is that sort of thing that you're referring to, right?
Yes. So exactly. As soon as a customer buys, they go into a database being like, this person bought on January 1st. They paid you $1,000. And then if they buy again, that CRM should tell you, right? So it's pretty much automated. What you're talking about, like follow-up emails, that also comes from the CRM. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So are there different types of CRMs? is it like operational, collaborative, and analytical? Is that right? Or there are other different types of CRMs?
I think it depends what kind of business owner you are. Honestly, the CRM that I would recommend is one that works for you. So for the longest time, I didn't have a CRM, but that meant I was leaving a lot of money on the table because I had some phone numbers here and I had some email addresses there, but there was no place that it was being held. So
Sure.
I'll give an example. I'll give a metaphor. I think this will help. Imagine you have 5 different purses, right? And in one purse, you carry like a couple of business cards. And then in another purse, you left change, right? A couple of dollars. And then in another purse, you had a checkbook, right? And you're constantly running from one purse to another, trying to find your things or trying to find information that you need. You're like, where's that extra, that $100 bill, or where was that business card from that conference the other day? A CRM is basically one big purse that holds all that information. And so you're not like searching around in different places on your computer, on your phone, or in different software. It just holds all of that information like one big tote bag.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, that is very helpful to know. And I think for me, when I started with my small business, because it was an accidental business, I just sort of went with the flow, and I did a lot of mistakes, a lot of learning, and I think I would definitely do things differently if I was like starting my business today. So on that note, would you do anything differently if you were starting your business, say today, January 2024?
I got asked this question recently, and they're like, would you change anything? And I would say maybe I would hire people sooner. Like I did hire someone within the first 3 months of my business, but I would probably hire people from my life, right? So I'm in the process of hiring like staff for my home, right? So I took care of my business really well. Like I made the right hires at the right time, but in terms of my personal life impacting my business, I wish I made those hires sooner. I wish I had hired a travel agent sooner, or hiring a somatic therapist, right? That has really helped. But when you focus on business and you hire people in business, they focus on business work. No one tells you that you need to also balance your life to help with business. One of the biggest game changers for me was...
Hi there, just a quick little word from our sponsor. Now, as you know, I'm a small business owner, and this is my small business, See My Curls. So basically, See My Curls, my small business, sponsors this channel. So if you have wavy hair, curly hair, coily hair, or locks, and you like to try some natural, handmade, and organic products, be sure to check out seemycurls.com.au, and I hope that will inspire you to continue your curly hair journey. And yeah, let me know how you go. You can either follow me on my See My Curls Instagram page, or you can follow me at my Instagram page as well for these channel. All right, back to the podcast.
No one tells you that you need to also balance your life to help with business. One of the biggest game changers for me was hiring a landscaper. I remember one time I got off a meeting and I had to go mow the lawn, and I was just breaking down. I was like, I can't do it. I was just on a bunch of calls that day. And I'm sure people listening to this will be like, oh, well, like that's not a big deal. But when you're running a business for hours and hours on end, and then you're context switching, changing what you're doing at the last minute, or trying to do some household errands, it's a lot. It's a big mental load. And I remember hiring help around the house was such a big game changer. No one had really talked to me about it. And I wish more entrepreneurs did, because it's hard to do everything. I think I'm not a mother, but I know I have a lot of clients that are mothers, and it's a lot of work to run a business, be a mom. I'm also not a wife, but like if you are a wife, like being a wife, it's a lot of work. And if you hire help in your personal life, I think that could be such a big game changer in your business life as well.
Yeah, Yeah, amen, amen, amen. Because so my husband and I, we both work from home, and we've got three kids, two teenagers and a 9-year-old. And I think it was just the beginning of last year, 2023, that we hired someone to do our lawn,
Yes.
because we're on a on a bigger property, so we need that grass mowed, and we're like, you know what? We don't drink coffee or anything like that. Why don't we, pretend we're drinking coffee once a week, put that money aside, hire someone to do the lawn for us, and then we can focus on doing other things that, makes us, bring in, money, and also makes us happy. And this guy, he does the most beautiful lawn. I've like recommended him to so many of my friends. It's not funny. So yeah, you really have to be strategic and very sensible.
Yes. And going back to what you said, like hiring people so you can make more money, right? That energy you could have spent on the lawn, you can now focus on your own business, or, spending more time with your kids and your husband.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people look at it as a luxury, and it can be, but also looking at it as how can you make a return on investment, right? If I hire this guy, am I going to make $1,000 more a week? That's a no-brainer. Why not let me just hire him right now? Take the money, take it, so I can go make more money on my own.
For sure. That just sort of just reminded me of there's an ad here in Australia. I think you guys might also have it, but I think it's a KFC ad that says "Shut up and take my money." So yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, I'm sure a lot of my clients who are financial experts can tell you, I think a lot of things that you hear on the internet and on social media about spending money or investing or debt aren't with nuance in mind. I think that's what women of color are really, really great at in terms of finances. They understand what it's like to kind of be stuck in the middle, where you're taking care of your kids and you're also taking care of your parents, and you understand the nuances of financial advice. You can't just say never spend money because, hey, you might need to, so you could go drive your mom and take care of your kids so that guy can mow your lawn, right? There's a lot of nuance when it comes to spending.
Yeah. And this is a great segue. So I think on your Instagram you mentioned that you spent, I think, about $1,000 on different courses and things, and I think you said it was one of the worst online purchases. Can you tell me about that, when you realized, what, I've spent so much money, I want to tell my clients this is the way not to do it so you don't waste money? Can you tell me about that, because I was very intrigued about that story.
Yeah. Oh wow, that was a while ago, but I could definitely speak about it because I do remember it. Like, I think I've made so many investments for myself and then also for my business. And I think that story that I told was just, I basically made a $1,000 investment in a program. And I had just made the investment because I trusted the person who was selling it. I had, been following them for a while, but there was no substance in what they were selling. Like, when I was asking about what was actually in the curriculum, they couldn't really give me a straight answer. Or if I was asking about, how it would help me with new skills, I didn't really have a straight answer. And that was the downfall with that investment, because I didn't know what I was getting. I didn't understand how I was going to make a return on investment spending that money, right? It did end up helping. I would say regardless of what you spend your money on, there's always a way to figure out how to make a return on investment. So I got creative, right? They offered, they had a couple of coaches in the program. So I just pinpointed one I really wanted to work with. And I'm like, if I just talk to her a couple of times, this will be worth it for me. I think when you're making investments, it's important to kind of problem solve for yourself. No one is going to hand you a solution on a silver platter. Sometimes you have to kind of be creative and be like, okay, how will I get the value out of this, even if it wasn't what I was expecting, right? So I walked into that program. I'm like, this is not what I need. Cannot really help me. But I just focused on where can I squeeze out all the value, like squeezing out all the juice from a lemon, right? And I was like, where can I turn this lemon into a lemonade? And that's what I did. I just tried to find as much value in the program as I could. But I think it's also putting accountability back on me and responsibility on me, that if I make an investment, I have to make a decision that I will commit, and I will also have to make a decision on, like, is this the right fit for me? I think it's so easy to spend money just in the name of wanting to learn things, but you have to think long term. How is this decision going to impact me 6 months from now? How will it impact me a year from now? Is this a skill set I really need to invest in right now? Yeah.
Oh, wow. That is fantastic, Roma. I really like how you sort of went into that a little bit more. Thank you so much. Now, the next thing I want to go into is your family and friends. Now, I think on one of your stories, you mentioned that you've got very supportive family, family that sort of support you in your business. But at the beginning, you weren't quite sure how they respond. And I think a lot of people can relate. I can relate,
Yeah.
when you want to set up your business on, Instagram, and, you're thinking, oh, what would people think? What would my family say? I'm just a bit curious. Were you nervous? And if so, how did you go about saying, nah, that's it, I'm just going to do it? And if family want to support me, fine. If they don't, that's fine. Can you tell me?
I'm just laughing because I so many memories flood back. But yes, I had definitely had those problems with my family and my friends in the beginning. I was very self-conscious about me on social media, and to be completely honest, I blocked everyone that I knew. And I was like, they're not going to find my social media accounts because I cannot let the embarrassment or the anxiety hold me back. And I was like, what can I do? So I just blocked everyone. And I don't think it's a big deal because you have to do what you have to do. And if you feel like, there were multiple times where I did post videos and I actually deleted them because I could not handle the anxiety of people seeing me. The fear of being seen was so strong, and I was like, okay, how can I get over this fear with still building my business? So that's actually why I came up with the lead generation method that I have right now, because it does not rely on posting on social media. All it relies on is you sending a DM, which is behind the scenes. No one can see that you sent one DM to another person, or sending a voice message. No one can see who I'm sending voice messages or DMs to. That's how this whole lead generation method got started, because I had such a big fear of showing my face on social media and having my friends and family see me. And I think that's part of the secret sauce of like why I've been able to create so many sales and have so many clients that love working with us, is because they relate. They relate to being an introvert and also not wanting to be seen and embarrassed in front of your family and friends. At this point, I've outgrown it, right? I had to do a lot of inner work through therapy and somatic work on myself to be okay with people seeing me. But in the beginning, I was like, I cannot post on social media. I don't want to do this. I don't want to risk the embarrassment. So it was what it was. I had to figure out a way to make money without posting on social media, even though that's where I got all of my clients from. It was through the DMs, right? So I hit that check mark of not posting on social media. And I blocked everyone that I knew. And I also did not talk to my family about my business, or I told them very need to know things until I made my first 6 figures, because I knew they just were not going to support me the way I needed support. And I really relied on my mentor. Actually, for that first year, I just told my mentor everything. That I think having a support system outside of that's just entrepreneurs can help you so much, because in that first year of business, it can feel very lonely, because if you don't have a family of entrepreneurs, or if you don't have friends that are entrepreneurs, they're just not going to understand. They're not going to speak the same language as you for a little bit before you really get to where you need to go.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess this is the bit where you sort of have to think about your mental health, your, the energy and the vibe that you want to create, because you can sometimes get family members that are very, very negative in everything they say, or you can get family members who are very, very supportive. I have a very, very wonderful support system that I can definitely relate, especially with, you know, friends not quite understanding what's going on, or even sometimes friends who sort of watch from the back, you know, behind the curtain, so to speak, and just, you know, hardly ask you about, you know, what you're doing and you know, how that's going. Yeah.
You know, and it's something that you just said that makes me think about this. I think a lot of times when you feel like people are being negative about your business or negative about the path that you're going on, I think it actually means they care about you, because they're so worried about your risk of failure that they want to warn you, even though it's not helpful at the time, right? But looking back, I'm like, anyone that said something that I didn't take well at maybe in my first year in business, I realized they just cared about me deeply enough to warn me, right? The best they could, even though it's not their best advice because they're not entrepreneurs. I think it comes from a deep sense of caring about the other person, especially when it comes to family, especially if you have family and friends that are very risk averse. They don't like taking a risk. And entrepreneurship is all about calculated risk. But if you have a lot of friends and family that are risk averse and they are kind of being a damper on your ideas, I think just knowing that it comes from a place of them caring about you, even if it's not what you want to hear, that perspective was really helpful for me long term.
Yeah, it really makes sense. And yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because yeah, that is so true. And you know, like you mentioned before, being an entrepreneur can be a very, very lonely, you know, path, and you sort of really have to have that mindset of, you know, bring yourself up in the times when things are low and things are high. So on that note, what sort of challenges have you come across, you know, with your business?
I think with my business, the biggest challenge I've had is when it's time to let people go, having those conversations. I'm the type of person that will kind of keep, how do I put this? I would say, like, when I've already mastered a skill, I'll kind of hold on and make sure I've mastered it enough. And I think everyone needs to decide what's the finish line for you, right? So for example, if you hire someone and you're like, my goal is to get 10 subscribers on YouTube, and that means once I hit my goal, I'm good to go. Then once you hit that goal and you have the skill set to do it yourself, are you going to continue working with that person even though there's no other skills you could learn from them? Or are you going to, hire someone else? I think that's the biggest thing, is like switching skill sets. For me in business, I have to constantly decide where I'm going to pivot. So for example, the first year in business was all about learning how to operate on a sales call and learning how to do lead generation. And the second year in business was really about scaling, but I wanted to focus on sales. I still wanted to pretend like the second year was like the first year. And just walking through those pivots faster, I think, have been really big challenges, because you're so comfortable doing the same thing. So when someone like a mentor or coach tells you, okay, now it's time to learn this skill, and you're like, I thought that was going to happen in year 5, and you're telling me it's going to happen in year 2. It can be difficult. And the way to get over that is really having the support system of like giving you a process of how to do it, right? Because if I told you, hey, automate your whole business from the top down, you're like, oh, I don't want to do that. That sounds way too hard. You need someone to show you the process of it.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. So I just remembered that I did say I would come back to something, and I've just remembered. So you were saying that with your business, like especially on social media, you do like a lot of DMs. Do you find, and I'm going to ask that question personally, mainly because I'm thinking that's something that I probably need to work on a bit more. Do you find that when you DM people, say on Instagram, do they respond, or do you feel like they're thinking, oh, she's being pushy, she's, like, I don't know, because personally I feel like if I do that, people will be like a bit off-putting, thinking, what do you do in DM me? Like, how did you get over that anxiety or that worry? Because that's like my thing.
No, I completely understand. A couple of things. So one, I would say the fear of rejection is high when it comes to DMs, right? It can really hurt the ego to be left unread, or someone just liking your message or thumbs up in your message and they don't respond after you spent so much time and energy trying to craft a DM for them. It's like, why are they leaving me unread, right? You almost take it personally, but then what I tell clients is like, how can you take the pressure off, right? Can you send like more? Can you just send one DM? Can you send a voice message? This concept has really helped my clients of like, can you send a message like you were sending a message to a friend? When you send a mess, or even if you have like siblings, right? You don't look at your phone thinking of what to type to your brother or sister for 10 minutes, right? You just send them a message. You're like, hey, can I call you? Hey, like, why didn't you pick up? You kind of call them out on it. So when it comes to sending DMs, the first thing I would say is, how can you take the pressure off and talk to them as if they're already your friend, instead of you putting them on a pedestal and be like, this one person, if they don't reply back, it's the end of my world. No, it's like if your sister, if your brother didn't reply back, all right, whatever, I'll contact them again tomorrow, right? Yeah. So that's one. And then when it comes to also messaging people in the DMs, what I like to say is it comes from a place of serving your audience. You know that you're only messaging them because you know you can help them. I actually just wrote this email today, but one thing I will mention is a lot of people have thanked me for DMing them or thanked me for following up, because I don't take it personally, right? If someone doesn't reply back, I just assume something else is happening. Maybe their kid started talking to them and they had to focus on making dinner that day, right? They don't have time to be talking to me on Instagram. I understand. And because I understand that, it allows me to be shameless in my follow-up. I remember I DM'd someone 5 times, and every time they liked my message. They left me on red 5 times, Ruth, and they just liked my message, right? And I was like, I don't care. They are liking my message. That means they're reading it. And I just took that as a green light. And then this person became a client for 2 years. I worked with them for close to 2 years, because the 5th time they're like, okay, things have slowed down in my personal life. I finally have time to give you a real answer. Same thing with my most recent client. She just signed on. I think I sent her maybe 3 DMs that she just left on read. But she was going through personal things that I know nothing about. I don't know anything about her personal life, but I didn't take that to heart. I was like, okay, she's liking my messages. It's a green light. And I think when you're rooted in your mission to help someone, knowing that you're not bothering them, you're just trying to help them, and you're being consistent. You're just reaching out. And if they don't want to talk to you, let them tell you that, instead of just liking your messages or being left on read. That's how I look at DMing. One, really take the pressure off. 2, talk to them like they're a brother, sister, a friend of yours, to take that pressure off. And 3, know that what you're doing is rooted in helping them, not to bother them, right? To really help them.
Yeah, fantastic. That's very good. And I think like in the past I have DM people and they didn't get back, and I was like, oh my goodness, I shouldn't have done that. And then on some occasion other people have replied back and went and shopped, and I was like, oh, that's great. They've bought something. So yeah, you really do have to just be aware. And I love this technique and the strategies that you've mentioned. So thank you very much for that. You go.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have had a client who worked with skincare exfoliators, right? Like very similar to like hair care products in the wellness industry. And her first, I believe her first $1,000 in sales was all through the DMs. She was a busy mom. She didn't have time for content. And I was like, just DM people. And that's how she made sales, right? So there are all types of businesses.
Yeah, fantastic. And you also mentioned email. Are you a very, I don't know, some businesses say, we're not going to spam you. And I do tell my customers that. And I do send the once every month sort of newsletter only because I myself personally, I can't stand the every few days email from businesses, so I try not to repeat that for other people. So do you do emailing as well to your clients?
I I definitely email them, and I email them a lot, but I'm
Yeah.
curious. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm curious if
Yes.
for the business owners that are emailing you a lot and feel
Yeah.
spammy, do you unsubscribe?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Okay. This is important. I think this will be a good story. So I would say I do send a lot of emails. When we're in
Yeah.
our launch period, we send about 5 a day, 5 a day,
Okay.
right? And I always say if this is something that you're not interested in, you can unsubscribe, and I welcome the unsubscribes. If people don't want to listen to what I have to say or listen to things about my product, I look at those unsubscribes as people who are just saying that they're not interested. I don't attach anything to them. I'll just be like, it wasn't right for them. And the people, I like to say it like this. Imagine if you're like I'm thinking about the two big tours that just happened in the United States. If you're a Beyonce fan or like a Taylor Swift fan, right? And you get emails about their tour dates, right? And you're a fan of one of these people. You're eating that up. You're like, when is the next tour? What are they coming to my city? Are they going to talk about this song?
True.
You're just eating it up. You're like, oh, send me the emails. I want to know what's
Yeah.
happening. I want the merch. And I think when you send emails like that, you're just talking to your fans. You're talking to people who really appreciate what you do and, want to listen to you. And the people who aren't like Beyonce or Taylor Swift fans, they can just unsubscribe because they like some other music artist, right?
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah. No, it's good because when you were talking, I was thinking, actually, no, I don't unsubscribe to all of them. I do have a few that I think they do send every day or every few days, and I don't actually read all of them, but I have not unsubscribed. So that's obviously something, hey.
Yeah.
So
And something I was going to say is it's not a problem because they're sending you quality stuff. When you open their email, you're like,
yes.
oh, wow, this is interesting. So I'll just keep them on, even if I don't read all their
Yes.
emails.
No. Yeah. So I should admit that no, I do not unsubscribe to all of them. So perhaps I need to. Maybe this is a sign that I need to hire someone to do my emailing for me because I am terrible. I am like my husband say, we just send that email. They will read it if they want to read it, and they don't have to read it. If they don't want to read it, that sort of thing. And I'm like, oh, but I don't want to. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe that is not my forte. I probably do need to hire someone, so I will have to take that as a lead.
Yeah, and Ruth, what if they're all fans? What if they're eating it up? They're like, I want to know about the newest hair care product. I want to know what Ruth is doing in her personal life. I want news about her daughter and how her hair care journey is going. Like people will eat that up if they're the right fit for your work.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I really, I'm super enjoying this conversation. So that's very good. I'm like, being a bit selfish, just taking it all in for me. So, all right. So, on that note, there's something else that I was going to ask you. Yeah. So, what would you say you have enjoyed most about your business? So, I did ask you about your challenges. So, what has been one of the highlights or the most exciting bit, you've enjoyed?
I laugh because it seems it's like a byproduct. Like no one. I have heard people say this, but this also applies to me. I think the confidence. I know that no one can mess with me because I know how to sell and I know how to make money. I never have to rely on a 9 to 5 again. I never have to rely on like someone taking someone's nonsense, right? I don't have to deal with people I don't want to deal with. And I think the confidence that gives you is unparalleled. I never had that type of confidence working at a 9 to 5 or in undergrad when I was waiting for teachers to grade my papers or waiting for my boss to give me a promotion. I think being an entrepreneur means you get to control your own destiny and own fate. And if I want to fly business class, I know how much money I want to make. If I want to buy another house, then I'll know how much money I have to create. And I think that level of like knowing I'm in control. I think especially as a woman and especially as a daughter of immigrant parents, knowing that I can always rely on the skills I have as a business owner to always, not only fulfill like my base needs of like food, shelter, all of that, but really be able to achieve my dreams. I've been able to do things like I learned how to swim this year. I learned how I invested in tennis lessons. I invested in singing lessons. Uh, finally I got a car, and I did not have the confidence to do that with a 9 to 5. I did not have the confidence to do that when I was in college. But when you're a business owner and you know how to make money, confidence is different. What you think you can do in life is different. So that's what I'll say has been like the biggest game changer for me since running my own business. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I have to say, yes to one of the things you mentioned, which was learning to swim. I'm in that boat as well.
Yeah.
That sounds a bit funny. So I'm trying to get out of that boat and learn to swim properly. So yeah, that's on my to-do list for 2024. So there you go.
Yeah. And I just want to say that because I think again, when you're like first getting, if you're moving to a new place, or your family, like my family, they came to the US and they were just focusing on making things happen. Like I think achieving your childhood dreams, like learning how to swim or doing the basics, is such a game changer, and your business allows you to do that. I don't like if a 9 to 5, I don't have time to take 2 p.m. swimming lessons with a 9 to 5. But as a full-time entrepreneur, I do. So it changes how you're operating in terms of your lifestyle too.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I would just add to that, because when I was teaching full time and part time and relief work, which I think in America you guys call it temp, and I think the UK they call it temp work as well.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was doing that teaching, of course, I did not have time to be doing anything like that. Halfway through the day, going to take my daughter to an appointment, or going for sports event, that sort of thing, because I was just far too busy. And I think with my small business, because I sort of with the accidental business, and I sort of paced myself, and then basically resigned 2 years ago from teaching.
Congrats.
That sort of that sort of gave me a bit more flexibility, and being a bit more deliberate. So yeah, definitely as a business owner, you sort of have to plan things, and also be flexible, and then also live out that childhood dream, like you said. So yeah. So on that note, how is your work-life balance? Have you nailed that aspect, or are you still working on that?
I am laughing because if you had asked me 2 years ago, I would say no. I didn't have any work-life balance. I think I've been really good at having boundaries in my life now. Like I used to take Sunday meetings, Saturday meetings. That doesn't happen anymore. I think it's always a work in progress. I can get better at boundaries. I can get better at setting work-life balance. But also, I sometimes think it's a myth, like work-life balance. I think it depends on what you say work-life balance is for you. Some people, I have some friends that are entrepreneurs, and they don't mind working Saturday and Sunday. They don't mind working 7 days a week, as long as they can take like a 3-week vacation at the end of the quarter. And then I have some entrepreneur friends that will only work Monday to Friday and will never take a call on Saturday and Sunday. So I think it depends on how you define work-life balance. But for me, I think the biggest game changer with work-life balance was deciding what really depleted my energy. And that was like things like taking really late meetings into the workday, right? I think it depends for everyone. But for me, it was like really getting solid on my boundaries. And I think that's always something I can work on.
Yeah, fantastic. So just moving on to that next bit, is very similar to what you've just said, but can you tell me a bit about your day in a life? So, say one day, like how does your day sort of run?
Yes. So I would say in the last 6 months has been very different than how I've been running my business for the last couple of years. I'm very structured, and I'm so disciplined now. It's a tight ship. I think I pretty much know what's going to happen Monday to Thursday, and I have client days and then I have like sales days, right? So for example, yesterday was Tuesdays. I only focused on my clients that day. Like I was on calls all day on Zoom. I was, reviewing client work, reviewing like their launch plans, reviewing like their sales plans for the year. So it was just about them on Tuesdays. But Wednesdays, we're recording this on a Wednesday for me, is really where I focus on my own sales and I focus on my own business. Mondays and Wednesdays, I really focus on me and like what I'm doing. Because what I noticed is if I start the week helping everyone else, then I realized I wasn't able to grow my business that week at all. And really separating those days out has been really helpful because what I noticed is like trying to serve clients and trying to grow your business within like 6 hours is very hard, like switching that part of your brain. I talk about this a lot, but context switching, right? So imagine like going back to the example, if I'm mowing my lawn for like 3 hours and then I'm like trying to clean up my financials for another 3 hours, it can be a lot of load trying to do different types of things. So I just really try my best to focus on specific days of the week for specific things. Like Wednesdays are for me and my business. So I can take on podcast interviews and things like that.
Oh, very good. Yes. And yeah, you do have to be very, very, very strategic as well. So, yeah, well done. Personally, I find it, I do plan, but, with kids and family, I have to be flexible. Yeah. And then also on that note, I try not to be hard on myself, when I do have to break that flexibility. So, yeah.
I think that's key. And also, yes, I'm not married and I don't have kids. So I also have the flexibility to really, if I wanted to, I don't have that things like family obligations that might be taking me away. But I completely agree with what you're saying, Ruth, is like not being hard on yourself. I remember there was one time at like 10 p.m. at night. This was probably like a year or two ago, where I had like 20 tasks that left because I was in the middle of like a big like new season of my business. We were releasing a lot of new things and I was beating myself up. I'm like, I'm going to stay up until 1 a.m. to just get this done. And then at the middle of doing this, I was like, I cannot, I can do it on another day. And I think also what you said is one, giving yourself grace, and two, prioritizing, like, does this really need to happen tonight? Or can this happen in 2 days from now? Or can this be like a next month thing? Right? I think that's really important. Giving yourself grace and compassion. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. And we're getting close towards the end of our interview, but I really, really would like to ask you this next one. So can you tell me some of your favorite reviews that you've had from your clients? And I did see a lot of them on your socials. So yeah, well done. But you can tell me, what are some of your favorite reviews that you've had for some of your clients?
I would say something most recent that happened is I had been working with a client for 6 months, and she had actually told me that she was, and I mentioned this before earlier, is like she had thanked me for reaching out to her again and again and again, because she knew that if I didn't reach out to her, she wouldn't have really looked into us working together. That was really validating. Another most recent one was hearing that a client, we had worked together for 3 months one-on-one, and we had done a lot at that point. We had gone through her whole business from the top down, and we left that container working with each other, and we had gotten through a lot of progress. But I think like a year later, she told me that she had made like $22,000 or something from the skill set I taught her. And I remember literally almost crying when she told me that. We did like an IG live, and I was stunned because at that point, I take my work very personally. So I always want to make sure my clients get the best result. And I thought I had not worked hard enough to help her. And hearing like a year later that she was able to make $20,000, I was like, wow, my skill set works, it felt very validating to hear how much had changed in her business. And I think when a client exits your world, you don't really see how much growth they continue on because you don't see them every week or you don't see them as much as you used to. And kind of catching up with people a year later, because I started meeting up with clients to really create a platform to really showcase all women of color in finance. So I brought them onto my podcast and onto IG Lives, and they had updated me a year after we had worked together. And seeing all of those wins compiled within, I think, like a 3-month time span, I was like, wow, we are really changing the world because all of these women of color now know these skill sets to really run their business. And I think at one point I was like, it's not even about my business, it's about them. It's about them like really changing the world, which is what I set out to do. But I think when you're in the trenches of your business, it's hard to see the bigger picture. Like you start off knowing what the bigger picture is, but then you start working on admin or working on the next big project. And then just hearing from your clients what that you've been able to do for them, it's something else. Like it's so fulfilling in a way that I've never had before in any of my other jobs or in any other position I've ever had.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Sometimes it's good to look back on those moments, isn't it? Where you can sort of remind yourself and go, do you know what? I've come a long way, and look at all these achievements and look at all these wonderful people that I'm helping. So yeah, well done. Yeah. So Ro, do you have anything else you'd like to add that I didn't get to ask you? Yeah.
I think I would love to add in, like, if you're in a position where you're an entrepreneur and you're doubting yourself about starting entrepreneurship, I would say hire someone. I think that's the biggest game changer for all entrepreneurs once they hire help. Even if it's not like a VA or a virtual assistant, hiring a mentor has been the biggest game changer. I remember reading all the business books at the bookstores here, and no one told me to hire someone. And I wish someone did because I wasted like a solid 5 years trying to figure it out myself. And I could have sped things up. So I just really want to hammer that home. If you've been trying on your own for a long time, please hire someone. Invest like something, even if it's like $10 in someone's ebook. Put some skin in the game so you're committed to actually creating more revenue in your business. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Very, very good advice. And talking about advice, so basically with my podcast, I have a thing what I call SBO Inspo. So that's Small Business Owners Inspiration. So all my guests, they leave an inspiration word for the next guest. So the guest before you that I had, his name is Noah Henderson, and he is an artist. And yeah, so he left you this beautiful word of inspiration. So I'll play it for you and you can tell me what you think at the end.
It's all about showing up and consistency. And you may not see results immediately. It may never work out, but you never are going to know until you at least try to it. And I'd say if it's something you really are passionate about and really do care about, then you have to commit to it. And that's the only way you will find out. And it may not always work, but you got to at least try. And like painting, for example, is something I just really do love. And whether or not it's my full-time job, I'm going to provide time for it and I'm going to commit to it and see where it can take me.
So yeah, so that was his word of inspiration. Now, it could be something that could have been very helpful for you back at the beginning when you started your business. I don't know. So was that helpful for you, Ro?
Yeah, I think what I could really hear from his voice message is how passionate he is about it, right? That no matter what happens, he'll always keep that love for the creativity that he has in his business, whether it's this business or if he starts multiple businesses later. But yeah. I think passion is what I really got from that voice message. As long as you're passionate about the work, you can survive pretty much anything.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, pretty much spot on. So, on that note, it is actually your turn now to leave a word of inspiration for my next guest. So, yeah, you can, whatever you feel is in your heart or in your mind. Now, I don't know who that next guest is going to be, which is good because it's funny. A lot of the inspirations left for the next people, they all sort of seem to tie in really nicely. So you just don't know. So you just have to just leave a word of inspiration that you want to leave for the next guest, no matter what, category they're in.
I think
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ro. And it's been a pleasure and a wonderful time talking to you. I've learned so much. Yeah. So before I let you go, would you like to tell me your social network, where people can find you?
Yeah. So it's pretty consistent throughout everything on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and my website. It's all the Ro Shah, TheRoShah. And we're having a training. So if you're curious about how to make more leads and sales, that's happening on February 19th. And yeah, send me a DM. Send me a DM and talk to me.
That is fantastic. All right, Ro, just want to say thank you once again. And I'm glad that we penciled in this conversation. And I think a lot of people find it very helpful. I know I did 1,000 times. So thank you once again. And you have an awesome evening. And I'll see you on social media. All right, you take care, Ro.
Thank you so much, Ruth.
Okay, bye for now.